Hello, my name's Brian. I'm an Agile management consultant, and earlier this year I left London town and headed north. Welcome to Yorkshire. Agility, once you've stripped back all the principles and processes, really just is solving the problems in front of you. And a good mentor of mine when I was new to consultancy, their mantra was always show, not tell. Now this place is very nice, but some of the interior decoration isn't quite what we'd want. So I thought I'd show how I'm using the Agile principles to change this place and make it mine. Oh, and it turns out flat caps, they're not obligatory in Yorkshire. It starts here, a 2-bay garage. Before you can produce the thing you want to produce, you need the means of production. This garage needs to become a workshop. The requirements are that my car, which is a soft top, be in the garage before winter arrives, and that I've got workshop space in order to build things. Those requirements are fairly fundamental. They're unlikely to change. But the next level down, all of the design decisions about how those requirements are fulfilled, well, those are up for grabs. People mistake design decisions for requirements all the time, but they're not. If the fundamental requirements aren't fulfilled, then the entire endeavour has failed. If that car isn't in the garage before winter arrives, it's definitely going to suffer. To build a workshop, you need a workshop. To build a workshop for building a workshop, you need a workshop. To build we're just going to have to start somewhere. One of the Agile principles is to release early and release often. Whilst my dream workshop in my head might look like one of the workshops you see on the other YouTube channels, tools laid out neatly in exquisite cabinets with a pristine workbench in the foreground, that is a dream. The first release of the workshop is just clearing enough space so that I can machine some plywood. Even workbenches are still a dream. The plywood is machined sitting atop the cardboard moving boxes. It might not be my dream, but I am getting value from it. I am able to make progress. The first real iteration of the garage is simply to line the walls on the workshop side and add more electrical outlets, as you can never have too many electrical outlets. The walls support shelves, push the workbenches up against the walls, put the stuff in boxes onto the shelves to clear the car side, and drive the car in. Job done. Cue the montage. This isn't manufactured YouTube Jeopardy. It all went wrong for likes and subscribes. It didn't go wrong. I have shelves. There is a workbench here, now full of tools. But as I was doing this, I came to realise that some of my design decisions weren't quite right, or more truthfully, incomplete. One of the Agile principles is we welcome changing requirements even late in development. Now, the fundamental requirements, they haven't changed. I need a workshop space, I need room to store my car over winter. But the design decisions that fulfill those requirements, they are evolving. The fallacy at work here is thinking that you know everything up front. Unless the challenge is trivial, you probably don't. Now, laying out a workshop may appear trivial, but it turns out that it's not. How it's laid out has a huge bearing on how it is utilised. Experimentation is required. Until you can try the thing that you are building, you don't know whether it does what you want it to do. And I completely underestimated the amount of shelf space required. The shelves are full, and the garage is still full of boxes. If I had stuck to my original plan, then the garage would still be full of boxes and the car would be sat outside. Thankfully, it's not winter yet. Just a British summer. Time to be agile, to evolve the plan to something that's going to work. It turns out there's quite a lot of space up here. We could do something with this. Boarding out the roof creates another problem. It wasn't designed to bear substantial weight on the lower beams. That join is going to be an issue. It's not complete, but there's enough. Enough to actually see if some of it works. Should be okay. For some light stuff, I'll get it tucked away and some space cleared. Another release of value. Before boarding out more, it's going to be necessary to support the middle. That wasn't part of what was originally envisioned, but a wall separating car side from workshop side might keep the car a little bit cleaner. Stud work for the partition done. Cladding coming on Friday. It separates workshop from where the car is going to be. Hopefully it keeps a little bit of dust off the car when I'm doing woodwork. We will see. But it provides a partition and something to get this stack of timber up against. So, all good. Not going to be able to walk through like this as soon as I put off skin on, am I? Hey ho. So we get it tidy, and then the next delivery comes in. Sheet material here for cladding the partition wall that went up the other day, but also for putting across the back wall there so that the metal shelf there can be dismantled, sent for recycling, and all the stuff on it, all the garden chemicals, the solvents, paints and whatever else, they can go up on shelves across the back wall where there is room available. And then finally, might actually have enough space to allow us to get the car in, which would be good before the rains come. It's a British summer, you never know. Could be tomorrow they all turn up. Getting the wall panels in was slightly tricky, but eventually they slid into place. I was going to board all the way to the wall. I'd even purchased additional back boxes and switches so that there could be a light switch on both sides of the wall. Then I realised how useful the gap was, how regularly I was ducking through to get from one side to the other. Another design decision that could only be made by using and inhabiting the space. It's a decision that can be reversed. If I change my mind, I can still fill the gap in. It does, however, leave a piece of technical debt. The beam is a trip hazard. I know I'll step over it. I'm quite particular at looking where I'm stepping, but others in the household, less so, although they don't routinely inhabit the garage. now we have that space. I think I might leave it, because you can step through, if it wasn't full of junk. It's a little doorway. And then that, there'll be stuff stored on there. There'll be shelves, I'm sure, by the end of time. With the partition wall providing support to the roof joists, I can continue boarding out the roof space. This too evolves. I realise that lighting is going to be needed once the floor panels start cutting off the light from below. I also realise that my estimation still sucks. I'm about 6 packs of loft board short. In truth, I didn't stop and calculate exactly how many boards I would need. Initially, I just threw a dozen packs of boards into a van, thinking that that would be enough. All done in haste whilst I had a van rented for picking up some furniture. The extra 6 packs just about fitted into the car without having to take out the children's car seats, to drop the back seats to create space. Even then, I still need another 2 packs, because now that everything is properly laid out, I can understand how to close the gaps to the roof joists. I had hoped to be able to split a single board in half lengthways and use one half to close one side, one half to close the other side. Unfortunately, the gap is just too big, so it'll be another run to the hardware store at some point next week. The gaps can be addressed later. The space is now utilisable and I can move stuff up there to create space for the next bit of work. This. A great big pile of garden stuff in the corner. Need to get that sorted. To get that sorted, brick wall there needs lining, and we need to get some shelves up onto it. More observant may be noticing some consternation. I have the panel exactly 7 inches too short.
Oh, bollocks!
Which is exactly the amount that needed to be trimmed off to fit around the window.
And I've cut holes in it and everything.
The cause? Me making notes one day and then misreading them when I came to cut the timber several days later. Context switching is a killer. It kills your memory of what you were doing and increases the chance of mistakes, as has happened here. As much as we try to avoid it, we understand the mistakes will happen. Being agile, we evolve the plan to work around it. This is where the software engineers have it easy. They just tweak the code, rebuild it, and the mistake is gone. In the physical world, I can't magically make the mistake go away. Thankfully, I have a spare piece of ply that was originally earmarked for shelves, but can be repurposed into the back wall. I cut it to the right dimensions this time, although it costs me over an hour of lost time. The mistake itself, the miscut board, is not discarded. It is cut down even further to fill in the gap beneath the window. a little light shaving of the edges with a plane to get a perfect fit, and it slots in. What this does reveal is that there is an ugly gap between the boards and the wall at the window. Windowsill goes onto my backlog. It's not urgent, it's not needed to fill my initial criteria of getting the car under cover, it can wait. Plus, I don't have the relevant material to hand to fabricate it, which is a blessing as it prevents me from being distracted by it.
But let's get him out of the way.
As everything is moved back into place, the ability to get the car into the garage to fulfill the second success criteria of the endeavour, well, that moment is getting tantalisingly close. Then there are the diversions. How do you sensibly store something like this? The strimmer now sits out of the way above the sheet material store with a shelf for the attachments, fuel additives and spares. Finally, there is space.
Success. But that was estimated to take 3 weeks, and here I am 5 months later. Somebody ought to do a retrospective on that entire process.